imagine standing at the altar, right? You've just finished an ancient Celtic hand fasting ritual where your hands were like literally bound together with braided ribbons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then your partner's grandmother steps up and gives this really heartfelt blessing in a language you don't actually speak. And you're standing there knowing that in about 3 hours, you'll be eating midnight poutine.
The fries and squeaky cheese curds.
Exactly. Rich gravy, the whole deal.
Yeah.
All while wearing a custom embroidered South Asian lehenga.
Hmm.
And the thing is, this isn't some chaotic movie set. It is, it's the new normal for a massive wave of weddings happening across the U.S.-Canada border.
Right, because what we are watching is the complete deconstruction of the standard, cookie-cutter wedding template. You know the one I mean.
The white dress, the chicken or fish option.
Yep, the standard vows, do the Macarena and go home. That rigid blueprint where everyone just kind of assimilates into a single predictable structure, it's officially a thing of the past.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today's deep dive is taking us straight into the booming trend of cross-border multicultural fusion weddings between the U.S. and Canada. We're looking at a comprehensive guide from Weddizer.
Which is such a great resource, by the way.
It really is. It's a platform totally dedicated to multicultural wedding planning. And our mission today is to figure out how modern couples are completely transforming traditional celebrations into these deeply personalized border-crossing events.
Absolutely.
And for you listening, whether you're, planning a wedding yourself, attending one soon, or you're just fascinated by how human relationships reflect our changing world, we are going to hit some serious aha moments today.
We really are, because the shift we are looking at is massive. We are moving from a single dominant cultural narrative to celebrations that are actively and intentionally multifaceted. It's a profound change in how we mark major life milestones.
Right. And what stands out immediately in the Weddizer guide is that we aren't just talking about blending, like a typical American family with a typical Canadian family.
No, not at all.
It's not just arguing over how to pronounce about or whether to watch hockey or football. Because of the sheer diversity within both the United States and Canada, an American-Canadian wedding often means bringing together entirely different global ethnic backgrounds.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is that the border between these two countries is incredibly porous when it comes to relationships. You really have to factor in the sheer volume of mobility today.
Yeah, people are constantly moving around.
Right. People cross that border for university, they move for tech jobs in Seattle or Vancouver, for travel, or, they simply meet online. So you end up with a couple where one person might be a first-generation Canadian of Filipino descent, and the other is an American with deep-rooted Mexican heritage.
So suddenly the guest list is entirely international. You've got multiple languages being spoken during the cocktail hour, completely different religious traditions that somehow have to share the same venue on a Saturday afternoon.
It's a lot to balance.
It is. It feels like modern relationships are this complex Venn diagram.
Mm-hmm.
But the overlapping middle isn't just a compromise where nobody gets what they want. It's an entirely new, colorful culture. It's not just saying, well, we're in New York, so we'll do a standard American wedding and maybe play a Shania Twain song to keep the Canadians happy.
Right, which is how it used to be. Historically, weddings were largely about assimilation. You fit into a mold. Usually that meant adopting the dominant culture of the country you lived in, or defaulting to the dominant religion of the more traditional family.
Someone always had to compromise.
Exactly. It was a subtractive process. Somebody had to give something up. But now it's additive. The wedding becomes a literal, physical manifestation of a shared journey. You aren't diluting your histories, you are stacking them to build a bespoke culture for this new family unit.
Stacking them. I love that. But so what does this all mean for the actual logistics of getting families from different corners of the globe onto the same page? Like, how does that stack actually look when you're standing at the altar?
It can look pretty wild, honestly.
Right, because it's one thing to say you want to honor both families in theory. It's another thing entirely to figure out how a Catholic priest and an indigenous elder are going to co-officiate without the whole thing feeling incredibly disjointed.
Well, the ceremony is the emotional crucible of this whole endeavor. This is where you see the most intimate and often the most challenging blending of beliefs. Couples are getting very creative with how they sequence these traditions so they flow naturally.
Like what kind of sequencing?
So a family blessing from one cultural background might immediately follow a reading from another. For example, weaving indigenous smudging ceremonies using sacred smoke to purify the space right into the middle of a traditional Christian mass.
Oh, wow. Or taking that Celtic hand fasting tradition we mentioned earlier. For anyone who hasn't seen one, it's where the couple's hands are literally tied together with cords or ribbons to symbolize their union. It's actually where the phrase tying the knot comes from.
Which is such a cool piece of trivia.
It is. And the Weddizer guide highlighted couples performing that ancient, highly symbolic ritual and then, immediately transitioning into reading very modern, personalized vows right off their smartphones. It's a beautiful contrast. But I have to admit, I do struggle a bit with the language aspect of all this.
Really? How so?
Well, if I'm a guest and suddenly half the ceremony switches into a language I don't speak, or features a deeply specific religious ritual I have never seen before, doesn't that risk totally alienating people?
That's a fair point.
I feel like there's a danger of sitting in the audience feeling completely lost or disconnected because you literally don't understand the words being spoken.
It's a real risk, for sure. If you just drop a 20-minute ritual in an unfamiliar language onto an unsuspecting audience, you will lose them. People will tune out. That is why thoughtful design is the make or break factor in a fusion wedding.
Thoughtful design, okay.
Yeah, because the goal couples are striving for isn't universal comprehension of every single word. The goal is universal participation in the emotional experience.
Universal participation, not comprehension. Okay, but how do you actually engineer that? If I don't know the words, how am I participating?
You build bridges. Think about the physical materials provided to the guests. Couples are designing incredibly detailed dual language ceremony programs.
Oh, I see.
So when that grandmother gives her blessing in Tagalog or Spanish, the English translation is sitting right there in the guest's hands, along with a short paragraph explaining the historical significance of what she's doing.
It's like providing subtitles and director's commentary for real life.
Yes, exactly. And when a couple takes the time to provide that context, they are sending a very clear message. We know this is new to you, and we want to hold your hand through it.
That makes a lot of sense.
It actually creates a more inclusive atmosphere than a standard wedding because it explicitly acknowledges the differences in the room. Even if you don't catch every phonetic syllable of a specific blessing, you can feel the reverence in the room and you can read the emotional context.
Okay.
It ensures both sides of the aisle feel represented, rather than making one side feel like outsiders at a private club.
I really like that. It shifts the unfamiliar from being a barrier to being this beautiful guided window into someone else's world. And, once those vows are exchanged and the tears wiped away, the whole vibe shifts. We move from the spiritual to the incredibly
Oh,
sensory.
the sensory shift is huge.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I think a modern fusion reception basically becomes the ultimate interactive museum exhibit of a couple's life.
Except instead of looking at artifacts behind glass, the exhibits are things you can taste, wear, and dance to.
Yes. Let's talk about the fashion, because it is blowing my mind. We are moving way beyond the singular, expensive white dress that just, gets boxed up in the attic.
Forever. Thank goodness for that.
Right. Couples are utilizing multiple outfit changes throughout the day to physically wear their heritage. You might have traditional cultural garments for the ceremony, like a vibrant red and gold Chinese kipao or a sharply tailored Nigerian agbada, and then they switch into contemporary Western attire for the dance floor.
And sometimes the fusion happens within a single garment. We are seeing designers doing incredible work integrating details from both cultures.
Really? Like how?
Well, imagine a classic, white, modern silhouette gown, but it features intricate, heritage-inspired embroidery that tells a story from the bride's ancestral homeland. Or a groom wearing a standard tuxedo but with custom accessories or fabrics woven with cultural motifs from his partner's background.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a visual manifestation of two lives tangling together.
You literally aren't forced to choose between your heritage and your modern style. And as visually stunning as that is, we have to talk about the real reason people go to weddings. The food.
Oh, absolutely. Food is the most universal language we have. If you want to introduce someone to a new culture, you start with their plate.
The culinary journeys these couples are designing are ridiculous in the best way possible. I was looking through some of these menus from the Weddizer guide, and you have Canadian specialties sitting right next to American regional favorites.
The contrast is amazing.
Imagine a carving station with traditional Texas brisket, but the appetizers circulating the room are delicate, indigenous-inspired salmon bites. Or these massive international dessert bars, where a classic American apple pie is sharing a table with incredible layered Middle Eastern pastries.
There is a very specific psychological reason couples pour so much of their budget and energy into the menu. It breaks down walls instantly.
Yeah, how so?
Think about it. If you have a room full of guests from an American Midwest background who have never been exposed to authentic South Asian cuisine, having them taste a celebratory family recipe, something rich and flavorful that they can't pronounce but absolutely love, is an incredibly welcoming entry point. It's a shared sensory experience.
That's so true. You can't help but bond with the stranger sitting next to you at table 7 when you're both trying a new fusion cocktail or digging into late-night comfort food.
Exactly.
Like serving a massive plate of poutine, which, if you haven't had it, is this glorious Canadian invention of crispy fries smothered in thick brown gravy and fresh, squeaky cheese curds. Serving that at midnight, right alongside classic bite-sized American cheeseburger sliders. It's a brilliant way to say, here is where we both come from, now let's eat.
And the environment holding all that food and fashion together is built through very intentional decor and music. The visual storytelling in the venue often draws from the geography of both nations.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about the decor.
Yeah, you might see a floral design that pairs the rugged, pine-heavy feel of the Canadian Rockies with the vibrant desert wildflowers of the American Southwest.
And the music. The playlists are a wild mix. You've got American classics, Canadian artists, traditional cultural music, and then they bring in live multicultural performances.
The energy must be incredible.
The Weddizer Guide talked about couples hosting interactive cultural dance lessons right there during the reception. Imagine being pulled out of your chair to learn a traditional Greek circle dance or a Punjabi Bhangra routine from your new in-laws.
It physically gets people out of their comfort zones.
Yep.
The overarching goal is to ensure every guest hears or tastes something warmly familiar while also discovering something completely wonderfully new.
Okay, I am completely sold. This sounds like the greatest party on earth. But I can't even imagine the catering bill.
No, I know.
Or the sheer nightmare of trying to source traditional international ingredients for a highly specific family recipe in a small Canadian mountain town venue. We need to do a reality check here.
Yeah.
Because transitioning from the romance of all this into the practical execution requires some serious logistical maneuvering. How do couples actually manage all of this without needing a degree in international relations?
The logistics are incredibly daunting. You are essentially organizing an international summit that also requires a DJ and a cake. The practical challenges are vast. Just dealing with the cross-border nature means navigating travel arrangements, visas, and guest accommodations for people flying in from all over the globe.
Not to mention the legal requirements. Getting legally married across borders can involve wild variations in paperwork depending on which province or state you're standing in when you say, I do.
Absolutely.
And currency. If you are an American couple booking a venue in Toronto or a Canadian couple hiring a photographer in New York, fluctuating exchange rates can completely blow up your budget overnight.
It's stressful, but the most delicate challenge, the one that requires real diplomacy, is time management. You cannot fit 3 days of dense cultural traditions into a standard 6-hour American-style wedding event.
How do they actually do that? How do you respectfully cut a traditional multi-day Indian wedding celebration or a massive Nigerian traditional engagement down to a Saturday afternoon without deeply offending someone's grandparents?
It requires a brutal but respectful editing process. This is where platforms like Weddizer are stepping in with cultural etiquette guides.
Oh, so they actually help you cut things down.
Exactly. Couples sit down and identify the rituals that carry the most emotional weight, the absolute non-negotiables. They distill a 3-day event down to its core symbolic moments. Maybe they skip the extended community feasts but keep the intimate family garment exchange ceremony.
Makes sense.
It requires intense, open communication with both sets of parents to manage expectations long before the invitations go out.
Manage expectations is definitely polite code for setting boundaries with your mother-in-law. But what I found really fascinating is how couples are throwing technology at these logistical nightmares. The tech of tomorrow is already showing up at the reception.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are witnessing a massive shift in how technology actually enables tradition rather than replacing it. We are moving toward things like AI-assisted multilingual communication.
Wait, what does that practically look like? Is there like an AI robot officiating the wedding?
Not quite. Think about live translation. Instead of printing massive 20-page programs, couples are using AI software linked to QR codes on the tables.
Oh, that's clever.
Right. A guest scans the code with their phone, and as the father of the bride gives a speech in Mandarin, The AI generates a real-time, highly accurate English transcript directly on the guest's screen.
Oh, wow. That is incredible.